In this video, we're gonna recreate the effects from the original 1954 Godzilla film, but this time using modern visual effects techniques. First off, we need to create the actual Godzilla itself, or himself. I think it's him. So I created this cube and used Blender's sculpting brush tools to sculpt this basic starting shape, just like you would if you were using clay, but in the computer. Then I gathered a bunch of reference images from the original Godzilla design and then started working on carving out these details. I gave him some fins on the back and some simple hands and this basic face shape to work from. Then once the base mesh was looking good enough, I exported it into instant meshes to create some clean topology and then brought that back into Blender to start working on the fine details. Just like the original design, I gave him these large skin folds and I made his skin sort of resemble the bark on a tree almost. I thought that was really interesting that this shows that texture. But yeah, it looks cool, so I kept that. I gave him some teeth and a pair of eyes and then baked all of the high resolution detail to this normal map. This allows us to retain all of the visual detail while still keeping the poly count low. And as you can see with this comparison right here, the visual detail is minimal, but the performance detail is huge. So this is why this method is used all of the time in movies and games. If you want an in-depth tutorial on creating a creature like this, I have another tutorial on my channel about that, so I can link that in the... yeah, perfect. I texture painted this basic color image and then exported the final Godzilla to Mixamo for automatic rigging. Där måste jag med introt på videon. As you can see, it does a pretty good job to do the rigging for us, but we still have to go in and fix some of these issues by hand. So I spent some time to clean up these bone weights, and while I was at it, I created these tail bones and weight painted those as well. At this point, the rig was looking really solid, so we could move him around like this. So it was time to bring out my Rococo smart suit to capture some motion capture for the animation. Unfortunately, the Rococo suit that I got didn't come with a tail tracker, so I had to animate that by hand. I used this really clever technique that I learned from Blender Brit to create this rig for the tail that allowed me to animate this wagging effect by only moving the base bone. Then I slowed the animation down to have it look really huge, and I think this looks great, but it feels a little bit stiff, so I duplicated the mesh and used the decimate modifier to create this low poly proxy mesh that follows the original. Then I weight painted specific areas to be simulated as a cloth, and then parented the original to this simulated one using the surface deform modifier. And as you can see, this creates this muscle or skin simulation that looks really nice, and adds a lot of organic feel to the animation. At this point, the Godzilla animation was looking really good, so I moved on to create this environment for the scene where they try to take down the Godzilla using this oversized electric fence. Modeling these power lines was really easy by using the triangulate and wireframe modifier, and then I could simply use a boolean cutter on the Godzilla mesh, separate these loose parts and make them all into rigid bodies, parent each individual part to its corresponding bones. That was a little bit too complicated, so let's just use cloth simulation on the towers instead. To match the original, I created these spark hits using a particle system, and then in a separate then file I simulated the smoke trails to follow the particles to sort of marry it to the scene a little bit better. I wanted to add a little bit more atmospheric effects to make the scene feel less clean in a sense. So I created this smoke card and these detailed spark hit cards with some additional smoke and brought that into my scene as animated image sequences, and that just adds a little bit more detail to break up the volumetric smoke a bit. Then I simulated some explosions from the Godzilla being hit with the artillery cannons and had the Godzilla mesh be a fluid collision object, which made the smoke sort of follow it when it moved like this. And then also I simulated the atomic breath from the Godzilla's mouth, which was more like a flamethrower in this case, but I think it looked pretty cool. To make the actual melting effects of the towers, I used a combination of cloth simulation for the deformation and then used dynamic paint to mix the material with this glowing metal material to have it become gradually more glowing. And to get the little drops of molten metal, I simply used a particle system that instanced this glowing icosphere, and from a distance it looks pretty good. After a little bit of post-processing effects and some color grading, this is my modern take on the original Godzilla effect. And if you're curious about what this might have looked like if it was in the original movie, I made this version where I matched the old film effect into the original scene. I think it really captures the feel of the original, especially with these old effects on it. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and if you like this video, why not take a look at this one next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.